The standoff lasted 3 days. Taeho did not leave the clearing. He stood there through the rain that fell on the first day, through the burning sun on the second day, and through the cold wind on the third night. Hannah brought him water and food, but he refused to sit down or rest. He was afraid that if he showed any weakness, the fragile peace would break. The others stood with him. The group had grown larger each day. More Valorians came from across the planet, their silver fur shining in the light. More aliens came down from the ships in orbit, one by one, to join the line. And every human from the research station was there, standing shoulder to shoulder with creatures they had never spoken to before. Acquisition Corps Captain made threats from his ship. He said he would bomb the site if everyone did not leave. But no one believed him anymore. His own crew had turned against him. Most of them were down in the clearing now, standing with the others. Negotiations happened in orbit. The different factions argued and shouted and accused each other of terrible things. But no one fired a shot. No one landed troops. The line of defenders was too strange, too unexpected. No one knew how to fight an army that was not an army. A force that had no weapons except stubbornness. On the morning of the fourth day, a message came from the Galactic Coalition headquarters. It was transmitted on all frequencies so everyone could hear. After careful deliberation, the Galactic Coalition hereby declares Valora 7 a protected zone under the Progenitor Heritage Act. The Valorian people will maintain full guardianship of all progenitor artifacts on the planet. A permanent multi-species observation station will be established, with the sole purpose of protection, not study or removal. Any attempt to interfere with the Valorian Guardians or remove artifacts will be considered an act of war against the entire coalition. Taeho listened to the announcement and felt his legs finally give out. He sat down hard in the mud, too tired to stand anymore. Hannah was beside him an instant, her hand on his shoulder. "We did it," she said. Her voice was thick with emotion. "Taeho, we actually did it." All around them, the defenders were celebrating. Humans hugged Valorians. Korathi warriors clasped hands with Nexus scientists. A merchant captain was crying tears of joy. The barriers that had separated species for thousands of years were crumbling in a single moment of shared victory. Baiko limped out of the jungle. His leg was still hurt, but he had insisted on watching from the trees. Now he made his way to where Taeho sat and lowered himself to the ground beside the human. "You kept your promise," the Valorian said. "The children are safe. All of them. I told you I would." Baiko was quiet for a moment. Around them, the celebration continued, but the two of them sat in a small circle of stillness. "I asked you once why you saved me from the river," Baiko said. "You said it was because I was drowning. I did not understand that answer then. I thought it was too simple to be true. And now? Now I understand that simplicity is not the same as weakness. Your people do not need complicated reasons to do good things. You just do them. It is perhaps the most frightening and wonderful thing about humans." Taeho laughed softly. "We prefer to call it stubbornness. Call it what you want." It changed everything today. The days that followed were busy ones. Ships came and went. Diplomats arrived to discuss the new protection treaty. Scientists came to observe, carefully and respectfully, from a distance. News reporters wanted interviews with everyone involved. Taeho tried to avoid the attention. He had never wanted to be famous. He just wanted to study alien life forms and be left alone. But the galaxy had other plans for him. The story spread across 1,000 worlds. The human who jumped into a river to save a drowning alien. The xenobiologist who stood in a clearing and challenged the entire galaxy to be better. The stubborn Earth, man who refused to leave until everyone made the right choice. Other species started to look at humans differently. They had always thought of humans as primitive newcomers, too young and too violent to matter. But now they wondered if they had missed something important. Maybe humanity's weakness was actually its strength. Maybe not giving up was the most powerful thing anyone could do. 1 month after the standoff, Tai-Ho was sitting in his small quarters at the research station. The room was filled with datapads and alien coffee cups and a small stuffed Valorian cub toy that Baiko's children had given him as a gift. He was trying to write a report about the local plant life, but his mind kept wandering. There was a knock at his door. He opened it to find Baiko standing there, his golden eyes bright with excitement. "Come with me," the Valorian said. "There is something you need to see." Tai-Ho followed Baiko through the jungle, along the now familiar path to the hidden cave. The thorn bushes had been trained to let him pass now. He was an honorary Valorian, the first human to ever receive such an honor. Inside the cave, everything looked the same as before. The glowing fungi, the nest with the cubs, who were much bigger now and tumbling over each other in play. The 12 progenitor eggs, pulsing with soft light, except one of the eggs was pulsing brighter than the others. Tai-Ho walked closer, his heart beating fast. The egg in the center of the circle was glowing with a warm golden light that seemed to fill the whole chamber. Its surface was rippling, like water disturbed by a stone. "The eldest keeper noticed it this morning," Baiko said softly. "She checked the ancient records. She says this has never happened before. Not in 10,000 generations. What does it mean?" Baiko moved to stand beside Tai-Ho, both of them staring at the glowing egg. "The progenitors said their children would wake when the galaxy was ready," Baiko said. "For millions of years the eggs have slept. Nothing could wake them. No technology, no magic, no amount of waiting." He turned to look at Tai-Ho, his golden eyes full of wonder. Until now. Tai-Ho stared at the egg. Inside, something was moving. A shape, pressing against the shell, reaching toward the light. "You do not think. Surely it was not because of me. Because of what we did." "I do not know," Baiko admitted. "Perhaps the progenitors were waiting for the galaxy to learn how to stand together. Perhaps they were waiting for species to put aside their differences and protect something innocent. Perhaps they were waiting for someone to show that kindness could be stronger than greed." He placed a paw on Tai-Ho's shoulder, the same gesture Tai-Ho had used a month ago. Or perhaps they were waiting for humans. Tai-Ho did not know what to say. The weight of the moment was too heavy for words. Outside the cave, the new multi-species observation station was being built. Humans and Valorians and Karathi and Nexus were working side by side, constructing something that had never existed before. A place where all species could come together to protect rather than possess. And deep in the hidden chamber, watched over by cubs and guardians and one very tired xenobiologist, the first progenitor egg in millions of years continued to glow brighter and brighter. The eldest, Valorian keeper, came to stand with them. She was very old, her silver fur streaked with white, her eyes clouded with age. But her voice was clear when she spoke. "It seems the galaxy is becoming ready," she said. "Thanks to all of you." Tai-Ho looked at Baiko. He looked at the cubs playing in the nest. He looked at the glowing egg and all the sleeping children still waiting to wake. "What happens now?" he asked. Baiko smiled, showing his sharp teeth in what Tai-Ho now knew was an expression of joy. "Now we wait together," the Valorian said. "And when the children wake, we will be here to welcome them. All of us, together." Tai-Ho thought about his life before this. The quiet research, the lonely nights, the feeling that he was just one small human in a very big galaxy, not important enough to matter. He did not feel that way anymore. Maybe humanity's role in the galaxy was not to conquer or dominate or discover. Maybe it was not about being the strongest or the smartest or the most advanced thought. Maybe it was just to remind everyone else what they had forgotten, that kindness mattered, that stubbornness could change the world. that sometimes the bravest thing you could do was simply refuse to leave. Taiho sat down next to the nest and let one of the cubs climb into his lap. Its small body was warm against his chest. Its tiny heartbeat matched his own. Outside, the sun was rising over Valora 7. A new day was beginning, and somewhere in the stars, something ancient and wonderful was finally waking up, because the galaxy was ready at last. Taiho ran through the jungle like a man possessed. The rain beat down on him. The mud tried to swallow his feet. Branches whipped across his face, and thorns tore at his clothes. But he did not slow down. He could not slow down. Every minute that passed was another minute the acquisition course had to find the cave. True to his word, Baiko had sent messages to his people. As Taiho ran through Valorian territory, he saw silver shapes moving in the darkness between the trees. Golden eyes watched him pass, but no one tried to stop him. The guardians let him through. He reached the research station just as the sun was setting. The building was a small metal structure designed to survive harsh weather. It had taken a beating from the storm, but it was still standing. The lights were on inside. Taiho burst through the door, dripping water and blood all over the floor. Hannah jumped up from her computer station and nearly fell over in shock. Taiho, where have you been? I have been trying to reach you for hours. There is a ship in orbit, some company called the Acquisition Course, and they are demanding we surrender some kind of energy source. And they are threatening to destroy the whole station. Hannah. Taiho grabbed her shoulders and looked into her eyes. I need you to listen to me very carefully. What I am about to tell you is going to sound crazy, but I need you to trust me. Hannah had known Taiho for 3 years. They had trained together, traveled to this planet together, worked side by side for 6 months. She had never seen him look like this. So serious. So desperate. I trust you, she said. Tell me everything. So Taiho told her. About saving Baiko from the river. About the cave and the cubs. About the glowing eggs and the progenitor symbols on the walls. About the 10,000 generations of guardians who had kept the secret safe. And about the acquisition cores waiting in orbit like hungry wolves. When he finished, Hannah sat down heavily in her chair. Her face was pale. Progenitor eggs, she whispered. Actual progenitor eggs. This is the biggest discovery in the history of the galaxy. It is not a discovery, Taiho said firmly. It is a responsibility. Those eggs are not ours to study or own. They are children, Hannah. Sleeping children who were entrusted to the Valorians. Our job is to protect them. Hannah looked at him for a long moment. Then she nodded slowly. What do you need me to do? Taiho smiled. He knew he could count on her. I need you to do something that will probably get us both court-martialed, imprisoned, or killed. So a normal day, Hannah said with a small smile of her own. Let me guess. You want me to use our communications array to tell the whole galaxy about the eggs? Yes, but not just any broadcast. I want you to send the message on every frequency. Standard channels, military channels, diplomatic channels. And the progenitor frequencies. Hannah's eyes went wide. Every species in the galaxy monitored the progenitor frequencies, even though they had been silent for millions of years. A message on those frequencies would be heard by everyone. That will start a war, she said. No, it will stop one. Or at least delay it long enough for us to do something. Hannah thought about it for a moment, then turned to her computer. Her fingers flew across the keyboard, setting up the broadcast. What do you want the message to say? Taiho had thought about this during his run through the jungle. He had practiced the words in his head, over and over. Now he spoke them out loud while Hannah typed. Confirmed progenitor site under attack on Valora 7. 12 intact progenitor eggs discovered under protection of native Valorian species. Aggressive acquisition attempt in progress by Acquisition Corps vessel. Request immediate multi-species intervention. Repeat, this is not a drill. Confirmed progenitor site under attack. Hana finished typing and looked at him. Are you sure about this? No, Taiho admitted. But it is the only chance we have. Hana pressed the button. The message went out, screaming across the galaxy at the speed of light. Within an hour, the sky above Valora 7 was very crowded. The first ships to arrive were Korathi warbirds. The Korathi were a proud warrior species who believed they were the rightful heirs to the progenitor's legacy. They came in force, with guns powered up and shields at full strength. Next came the Nexus collective science vessels. The Nexus were a hive mind species who valued knowledge above all else. They wanted to study the eggs, to learn their secrets, to unlock the mysteries of the ancient race. Then came the merchant houses, flying ships made of gold and silver. They smelled profit in the air. Progenitor eggs would be worth more than entire star systems. They were already calculating prices in their heads. And finally came the Galactic Coalition peacekeepers, trying desperately to keep everyone from shooting each other. The Acquisition Corps ship found itself surrounded by a fleet of very angry, very powerful warships. Its captain tried to claim that he had official salvage rights, but no one believed him. He tried to threaten, then bribe, then beg. Nothing worked, but Taiho knew this was only temporary. Eventually, someone would make a move. Someone would fire the first shot. And then the war would begin, and Baiko's people would be caught in the middle. He had to do something more. Something that only a human would be crazy enough to try. Taiho walked out of the research station and into the jungle. He walked back through Valorian territory, back to the cave, back to where Baiko was waiting with the cubs and the eggs. And then he walked to a clearing near the cave entrance, where the sky was visible through a gap in the trees. He activated his personal communicator and set it to broadcast on all frequencies. His face appeared on screens across every ship in orbit, in every bridge and every cabin. My name is Taiho, he said. I am a xenobiologist with the Earth Science Initiative. I am standing at the location of the progenitor site. I'm going to tell you why none of you are going to take these eggs. The orbital chatter went silent. Every eye in the fleet was watching him. I could tell you what is here, Taiho continued. I could show you the eggs, describe their location, give you coordinates. I could let you fight over them, as I am sure you all want to. But instead, I'm going to ask you a question. He held up his personal recorder and showed them footage from the cave. The glowing eggs, the ancient symbols, the tiny cubs sleeping in their nest. The progenitors did not give these eggs to the most powerful species in the galaxy. They did not give them to the smartest or the richest. They gave them to the Valorians. Do you know why? Because the Valorians understood something that most of you have forgotten. Some things are more valuable than power. Taiho paused, letting his words sink in. Humanity is new to the galaxy. You have been telling us that since we first reached the stars. You call us primitive, violent, short-lived children who barely matter. Maybe you are right. Maybe we are all of those things. But where I come from, we have a saying. The measure of a civilization is how it treats its most vulnerable. He pointed up at the sky where the fleet was watching. Those eggs are children. They are sleeping children who have been protected by kind hands for 10,000 generations. And now all of you have to decide what kind of civilizations you want to be. Do you want to be thieves who steal children from their beds? Or do you want to be something better? No one responded. The fleet hung in the sky, silent and still. I am just one human, Taiho said. I cannot stop any of you. If you want to come down here and take the eggs, you can. But I am not going to leave. I am going to stand right here in this clearing until every single one of you decides what you are." He lowered his communicator and waited. Within an hour, Hana came to stand beside him. She did not say anything. She just stood there, shoulder to shoulder with her friend. Then, one by one, other humans from the research station came. Scientists and technicians, cooks and cleaners. None of them were soldiers. None of them had weapons. But they stood in the clearing anyway, forming a thin line of defiance. Valorians emerged from the jungle, silver shapes with golden eyes, taking positions next to the humans. They did not speak, but their message was clear. They would not run anymore. And then, impossibly, a shuttle came down from one of the Karathi warbirds. An old warrior stepped out, his scales scarred from 100 battles. He walked over to where Taiho stood and took a position beside him. "My grandmother told me stories about the progenitors," the warrior said. "She said they valued courage above all things. I would not have them wake to find the galaxy full of cowards." More came. A Nexus scientist who announced she was taking a sabbatical from Logic, a merchant captain who said she was retiring from the acquisition business. Even a few crew members from the acquisition corps ship itself, who had apparently taken over their vessel from its greedy commander. As night fell on Valora 7, a strange army stood in the clearing before the cave. Humans, Valorians, Karathi, Nexus, merchants. All of them different. All of them together. Taiho looked at them and felt something warm in his chest. Maybe this was what the progenitors had been waiting for. Not a single species rising to greatness, but all species learning to stand together. Maybe the galaxy was finally becoming ready. The standoff continued. But something had changed. In the sky above and on the ground below, something new was beginning. And at the center of it all, one stubborn human refused to move. The cubs were cold. They had been alone in the cave for too long while their father was trapped in the river. Their small bodies were shaking, and their cries had become weak. Bayeko wrapped himself around them, but his own body was still wet and cold from the water. He could not warm them fast enough. Taiho watched and knew he had to do something. He took off his wet-out shirt and squeezed out as much water as he could. Underneath, his inner shirt was still slightly dry. He took that off too. "What are you doing?" Baiko asked. "Humans are warm-blooded," Taiho said. "Our bodies make a lot of heat, more than most species in the galaxy. It is why we sweat so much to cool ourselves down. Let me hold the cubs against my skin. I can warm them faster than you can right now." Baiko hesitated. The cubs were his children, his responsibility. Letting a stranger, an outsider, hold them went against every instinct he had. But the cubs were shivering. One of them had stopped moving almost completely. Baiko made a decision. "Be gentle with them," he said, and carefully lifted one of the cubs toward Taiho. Taiho took the tiny creature in his hands. It was so small, so light. Its silver fur was soft against his skin. He held it against his chest and felt its small heart beating very fast. Too fast. The cub was close to the edge. "Come on, little one," Taiho whispered. "Stay with me." He held the cub close and let his body heat flow into it. Slowly, the shivering began to stop. The heartbeat began to slow down to a healthy rhythm. The cub made a small sound and pushed its face against Taiho's chest. "It is working," Baiko said. There was wonder in his voice. One by one, Taiho warmed each of the cubs. He held them against his body, shared his heat with them, whispered soft words to calm them. By the time he was done, all 5 cubs were sleeping peacefully, piled together in a warm, furry heap. Baiko watched the whole thing without speaking. When it was over, he looked at Taiho with new eyes. "You saved them twice today," the Valorian said. First when you saved me from the river. Now this. I do not know how to repay such a debt. You do not owe me anything, Taiho said. I did what any decent person would do. No, Baiko shook his head. You did what a good person would do. Not everyone is good. You are. Taiho did not know how to respond to that, so he just sat down near the nest and looked at the glowing eggs. Now that he was not panicking, he could study them properly. Each egg was slightly different, with patterns of light that moved under the surface like slow fire. They were beautiful in a way that made his heart ache. Tell me more about them, he said. The progenitors. What do you know? Baiko moved closer to the eggs, lying down so he could rest his injured leg. His eyes became distant, like he was looking at something very far away. The stories have been passed down for 10,000 generations, he began. At first, we did not even have words. The knowledge was kept in songs and dances, in paintings on cave walls. Later, when we learned to write, the stories became legends, and the legends became sacred law. He paused, gathering his thoughts. The progenitors were not like us. They were not like any species that exists today. They were old when the first stars were young. They traveled the galaxy, planting seeds of life on empty worlds. They made us, in a way, not just Valorians, but many species. They started the fire of life and let it spread. Why? Taiho asked. Why create life all across the galaxy? We do not know. Perhaps they were lonely. Perhaps they were curious. Perhaps they wanted children who could one day become their equals. The stories do not say, and the eggs? Baiko's voice became softer. Near the end, when the progenitors knew they were going to leave, they came to our ancestors. They said they had been watching us. They said they saw something special in Valorians. Not power or intelligence, but something else. Heart, maybe. The ability to care for others without wanting anything in return. They chose you because you were kind, Taiho said. Yes, they gave us the eggs and said they were their children. Their last children. They said the children would sleep until the galaxy was ready for them. And they asked us to protect the eggs until that day came. 10,000 generations, Taiho whispered. Your people have kept this secret for so long. It has not been easy. Many times, others have come close to finding us. Many times, guardians have died protecting the den. But we have never failed. Never, until now. Baiko looked at Taiho with eyes full of pain. The humans in that ship, they have technology we cannot fight. They are manipulating the weather, flooding our lands, destroying our homes. More and more of my people are being forced to run. Soon, they will find this cave. And when they do, they will take the eggs. What will they do with them? Taiho asked, though he feared he already knew. Whatever makes them the most money or power. Sell them to the highest bidder. Use them as bargaining chips. Perhaps even try to open them to study what is inside. Baiko's voice became hard. They do not see children. They see prizes. Taiho stood up and walked to the cave entrance. The storm was still raging outside, but he could see glimpses of the sky through the rain. Somewhere up there, a ship full of greedy humans was planning to steal the most precious things in the galaxy. The Acquisition Corps is not the only human organization, Taiho said. My research station has communication equipment. We can contact the Galactic Coalition, the Earth government, other species. We can ask for help. No one will help us, Baiko said. If the galaxy learns about these eggs, everyone will want them. The Karathi Empire will claim them as their right. The Nexus Collective will want to study them. The merchant houses will try to buy them. There will be war. Millions will die. And in the end, someone will take the eggs anyway. So we just give up? Let the Acquisition Corps have them? No. Baiko tried to stand, wincing as his injured leg took weight. "We fight. We die protecting the eggs if we must. That is the sacred duty of every guardian." Taiho turned and looked at his alien friend. In the soft light of the cave, Baiko looked very tired, very hurt, and very determined. He was ready to die for those eggs, for the sleeping children of a long-dead race. And suddenly, Taiho understood something. Baiko was not just fighting for the eggs. He was fighting for the future, for a galaxy that could one day be worthy of the progenitor's trust, for his cubs and all the children who would come after them. "Humans have a saying," Taiho said slowly. "The measure of a civilization is how it treats its most vulnerable. Those eggs are vulnerable. Your cubs are vulnerable. And right now, the whole galaxy is being measured by what happens in this cave." "That is a good saying," Baiko said. "But sayings do not stop warships. No, they do not." Taiho smiled, but it was not a happy smile. It was the smile of a man who has just had a very crazy idea. "But I know something that might." "What?" "Everyone in the galaxy is selfish. Everyone wants the eggs for themselves. So what happens if everyone finds out about the eggs at the same time?" Baiko stared at him. "They would fight each other." "Exactly. They would be so busy trying to stop each other that no one could actually take the eggs. It would create a standoff, a frozen conflict. And while they are all pointing weapons at each other, we might be able to convince them that the eggs should not belong to anyone. You want to tell the whole galaxy about our secret? The secret we have protected for 10,000 generations? The secret is already out. The acquisition corps knows. Once they have the eggs, they will sell that information too. The only question is whether we control how the galaxy finds out, or they do." Baiko was quiet for a long time. Outside, thunder rolled across the sky. The cubs stirred in their sleep, but did not wake. "This is a very dangerous plan." Baiko finally said, "I know. It could make everything worse." "I know, but it might be the only chance we have." Taiho nodded. "I need to get back to my research station. I need to contact my partner there. Her name is Hana. She is good with communications and brave enough to do something stupid. You will have to go through the storm, through Valorian territory. My people will not know you are a friend. Then you will have to tell them." Taiho walked over to Baiko and knelt down so they were at eye level. "I need you to trust me. I know your people do not trust humans. I know we have given you many reasons not to. But I am asking you to take a chance. Let me try to save your world." Baiko looked into Taiho's eyes for a long moment. He saw determination there, and kindness, and something else that he had not expected to find in a human. Hope. "Go," Baiko said. "I will send word to my people. They will let you pass. But Taiho, promise me something. Anything. Whatever happens, do not let them take the children, the cubs or the eggs. Promise me they will be safe." Taiho reached out and put his hand on Baiko's shoulder. It was a strange thing, a human touching a Valorian like this. But it felt right. "I promise," he said. Then he stood up, put on his wet shirt, and walked out of the cave into the storm. The galaxy was about to learn what one stubborn human could do. The jungle was alive with danger. Rain fell so thick that Taiho could barely see 10 feet ahead. The ground was soft and slippery, trying to pull them down with every step. Strange sounds came from the darkness between the trees. Growls, screams, the cries of animals that Taiho had never seen and did not want to meet. Baiko leaned heavily on his shoulder. The Valorian was bigger than Taiho and much heavier. Every step sent pain shooting through Taiho's body. His injured shoulder screamed at him to stop. His legs felt like they were made of water. But he kept walking. "Left here," Baiko said, pointing to a narrow path between 2 giant trees. Through the thorn bush, Taiho looked at the path. It was covered in plants with long, sharp thorns that looked like needles. A human would be cut to pieces trying to walk through there. "Is there another way?" he asked. "No, this is the only path. The thorns are meant to keep outsiders away." "Great," Taiho muttered. But he did not stop. He just put his free arm in front of his face and pushed forward. The thorns cut into his clothes, his skin, his hands. He could feel blood running down his arms. Each step brought new pain. But he noticed something strange. The thorns seemed to pull back slightly when Baiko touched them. They still cut Taiho, but they opened a small path for the Valorian. "The plants know your smell," Taiho said. "They are trained to let your people through." "Yes," Baiko said. There was surprise in his voice. Most outsiders do not notice such things. "You are observant for a human. I am a scientist. It is my job to notice things." They pushed through the thorn bush and came out on the other side. Taiho was bleeding from 100 small cuts, but he was still standing. Still moving. The path led down into a deep ravine. Water rushed along the bottom like a small river. They had to climb down wet rocks, holding on to roots and vines to keep from falling. Several times, Taiho's feet slipped. Each time he caught himself at the last moment. "You are very stubborn," Baiko said. "Any other species would have given up by now." "Humans do not give up easily," Taiho said. "It is both our best and worst quality. I am beginning to understand this." They reached the bottom of the ravine and walked along the water's edge. The current was strong here too, fed by all the rain. Taiho had to be careful not to step too close, or the water would grab him and pull him away. After what felt like hours, Baiko pointed ahead. "There, do you see the rock shaped like a sleeping animal?" Taiho squinted through the rain. He could see a large rock formation that did look a bit like a curled-up creature. "Yes, I see it. My den is behind it, hidden in the cliff face." They climbed up a rocky slope and around the side of the formation. There, hidden from view unless you knew exactly where to look, was a small opening in the cliff. It was just big enough for a Valorian to squeeze through. For Taiho, it would be very tight, but Baiko did not hesitate. He pulled away from Taiho and crawled into the opening, dragging his injured leg behind him. Taiho took a deep breath and followed. The tunnel was dark and narrow. Taiho had to crawl on his hands and knees, squeezing between rocks that scraped against his back. He could not see anything. He just followed the sound of Baiko moving ahead of him. Then, suddenly, the tunnel opened up. Taiho crawled out and slowly stood up. He found himself in a vast underground chamber. It was bigger than any room he had ever seen, with a ceiling so high it disappeared into darkness. But it was not dark here. The walls were covered in glowing fungi, blue and purple and green, filling the space with soft, beautiful light. Dot in the center of the chamber was a nest. It was made of woven leaves and branches, lined with silver fur that must have come from Baiko himself. And lying in that nest, shivering and crying with tiny voices, were 5 small shapes. Cubs, Valorian cubs. They were no bigger than house cats, with soft fur and closed eyes. They were newborns, Taiho realized. Just days old, maybe hours old. And they had been alone in this cave while their guardian was drowning in the river. "My children," Baiko said. His voice was broken with emotion. He dragged himself to the nest and curled his body around the tiny cubs. They felt his warmth and stopped crying. They pushed their small faces against his fur and made sounds of comfort. Taiho stood still and watched. He felt like he was seeing something very private, very sacred. A father reunited with his babies. It was beautiful, but then he looked around the rest of the chamber, and his heart stopped. Behind the nest, arranged in a perfect circle, were 12 large eggs. They were not normal eggs. They were the size of human heads, and they glowed from within. Soft golden light pulsed from them like slow heartbeats. They were warm. Taiho could feel their heat from where he stood. And on the cave walls, carved into the stone with careful precision, were symbols. Taiho had studied Xena history at university. He had memorized the marks and writings of 100 alien species. But these symbols were older than any of them. These symbols belonged to a species that had disappeared millions of years ago. The progenitors. Taiho's face went pale. His legs felt weak. He had to lean against the cave wall to stay standing. Every child in the galaxy knew about the progenitors. They were the ancient race that had seeded life across the stars. They had created the first species, built the first cities, invented technologies that modern science still could not understand. Then, millions of years ago, they had simply vanished. Gone without a trace. Every galactic power had spent centuries searching for progenitor artifacts. A single tool from their civilization was worth more than a planet. Wars had been fought over fragments of their technology. Empires had risen and fallen trying to find their secrets. And here, in this hidden cave, were 12 progenitor eggs. 12 unbroken, glowing, living eggs. Now you understand, Baiko said quietly. He had not stopped looking at Taiho since the human saw the eggs. His golden eyes were watching, measuring, waiting to see what Taiho would do. These are... Taiho could not finish the sentence. Progenitor eggs. Yes, the children of the ancient ones. How? How long have they been here? 10,000 generations. My people have guarded them since before we could write or build or sail across the sea. The progenitors came to our ancestors when we were still wild animals hunting in the jungle. They saw something in us. Kindness, maybe, loyalty. They gave us these eggs and asked us to keep them safe. Taiho looked at the eggs, pulsing with soft light. He looked at the tiny cubs in the nest, innocent and fragile. He looked at Baiko, who'd almost died in a river trying to get back to protect all of them. They are not artifacts, Taiho said slowly. They are not technology to be studied. No, Baiko's voice was firm. They are children. They are sleeping children who will wake up when the galaxy is ready for them. And my people have protected them from everyone who would use them for power or profit. Does anyone else know about this? Baiko was silent for a moment. When he spoke again, his voice was heavy with worry. Someone found out. 3 days ago, a ship came to orbit our planet. They detected the energy from the eggs. We have hidden them for so long, but their equipment was very advanced. Since then, the weather has been wrong. The storms, the floods, they are not natural. Someone is controlling them. They are trying to flush us out, destroy our dens, make us run so they can come and take what we have protected. Who are they? Taiho asked, though he was afraid he already knew the answer. Humans, Baiko said. They call themselves the Acquisition Corps. Taiho closed his eyes. He knew that name. The Acquisition Corps were mercenaries, treasure hunters, thieves in expensive suits. They worked for the highest bidder and cared nothing for life or history or sacred trusts. They would burn this entire planet to get those eggs. They do not represent my people, Taiho said firmly. They represent only greed. Is there a difference? Baiko asked. It was not an angry question. It was genuinely curious. He had only seen humans from far away. He did not know what they were really like. Taiho opened his eyes and looked at the Valorian guardian. Then he looked at the cubs, warm and safe against their father's body. Then he looked at the ancient eggs, the children of a lost civilization sleeping and waiting. I am going to show you that there is, Taiho said. I am going to help you protect them. All of them. Baiko studied him for a long moment. Then, slowly, he nodded. I believe you will try, the Valorian said. I hope, for all our sakes, that you succeed. Outside, the storm continued to rage. But inside the cave, surrounded by soft light and ancient secrets, a human and an alien began to make a plan. The rain had been falling for 3 days without stopping. Tai-Ho stood at the window of his small research station and watched the jungle turn into a sea of mud and rushing water. He had been on this planet for 6 months now. Valora 7, they called it. A world of endless green forests, strange animals, and one very proud alien species that wanted nothing to do with humans. Tai-Ho was a xenobiologist. His job was to study the life forms on new planets. It was quiet work, lonely work, but he liked it. He liked being far from the busy cities of Earth. He liked the sound of alien birds in the morning and the smell of flowers that had no name yet. But today, something felt wrong. The rain was too heavy. The river near his station had grown from a gentle stream into an angry monster. He could hear it roaring even from inside his building. He decided to go check on his water measurement tools near the riverbank. He put on his waterproof coat and stepped outside into the storm. The wind pushed against him like a giant hand. The mud tried to pull his boots off with every step. But humans were stubborn creatures. Tai-Ho kept walking. When he reached the river, he stopped and stared. The water was brown and wild. It carried broken trees and dead plants like toys. His measurement tools were gone, probably washed away downstream. He was about to turn back when he heard something. A splash. Then another. And a sound that might have been a cry for help. Tai-Ho looked upstream and his heart stopped. There, in the middle of the raging water, was a Valorian. The alien looked like a great leopard, but bigger, with silver fur covered in black spots. It had 4 powerful legs and golden eyes that were now wide with fear. The creature was fighting against the current, but the water was too strong. Every few seconds, its head went under. Each time it came up, it looked weaker. Tai-Ho knew about the Valorians. Everyone at the research station did. They were an ancient species, proud and noble. They had made it very clear that humans were not welcome in their territory. They saw humans as newcomers, children playing at being a galactic species. In 6 months, Tai-Ho had never spoken to one. He had only seen them from far away, moving through the jungle like silver ghosts. None of that mattered now. There was a living being drowning in front of him. Tai-Ho did not think. He did not make a plan. He simply threw off his coat and jumped into the water. The cold hit him like a punch to the chest. For a moment, he could not breathe. The current grabbed him and tried to pull him under. His arms and legs suddenly felt very heavy. A voice in his head screamed at him that this was stupid, that he was going to die, that the alien would not have done the same for him. He ignored all of it and started swimming. The river threw him against rocks. Pain shot through his shoulder, his hip, his leg. He swallowed muddy water and choked. But he kept going. Humans were not the fastest species in the galaxy. They were not the strongest. They did not have claws or fangs or armor. But they had one thing that most aliens found terrifying. They simply did not give up. Tai-Ho reached the Valorian just as it went under again. He dove down, grabbed onto a thick leather harness around the creature's chest, and pulled with everything he had. The alien was heavy, much heavier than he expected. Its body was limp. For a terrible moment, Tai-Ho thought he was too late. Then the creature coughed and started to struggle. Its claws came out, sharp as knives, and Tai-Ho had to twist away to avoid being cut. He did not let go of the harness. "Stop fighting me," Tai-Ho gasped. "I am trying to help you." He did not know if the alien understood him. Most Valorians knew the common galactic language, but this one might be too scared or too weak to listen. Tai-Ho just held on tighter and kicked toward the shore. It felt like hours, though it was probably only minutes. The riverbank seemed to move further away with every stroke. Tai-Ho's muscles burned. His lungs screamed for air. The cold was making his body slow and clumsy, but then his feet touched mud. Solid ground. He dragged the Valorian onto the bank, pulling and pushing until they were both out of the water. Then he fell onto his back and lay there, staring up at the gray sky, breathing like he had just run 100 miles. The rain kept falling on his face. He did not care. Next to him, the Valorian was coughing up water. It rolled onto its side and took great, gasping breaths. Its silver fur was dirty and flat against its body. It looked smaller now, less like a proud alien guardian and more like a wet cat that had fallen into a bathtub. For a long moment, neither of them moved. They just lay there in the mud, two very different creatures who had almost died together. Then the Valorian turned its head and looked at Taiho. Its golden eyes were still tired, still clouded with pain, but there was something else in them now. Confusion, surprise, and maybe a little bit of wonder. "You saved me," the alien said. Its voice was deep and rough, like stones grinding together. Why would a human risk death for a Valorian? Taiho thought about the question. He thought about all the things he could say. He could talk about the value of life, about how all beings deserve help, about the principles of his job as a scientist. But in the end, the only answer that came out was very simple. "You were drowning," he said. The Valorian stared at him for a long time. Then it made a sound that might have been a laugh or might have been another cough. "You humans are strange creatures," it said. "I get that a lot," Taiho replied. He sat up slowly, checking himself for injuries. His shoulder hurt badly, probably bruised. His hands were covered in small cuts from the rocks. His whole body was shaking from the cold. But he was alive. They were both alive. The Valorian tried to stand but fell back down immediately. One of its back legs was bent at a bad angle. Not broken, Taiho thought, but badly hurt. "My name is Baiko," the alien said. It seemed important to him that Taiho know this. "I am a guardian of the Eastern Territory. I am Taiho. I am a scientist at the Human Research Station." Baiko nodded slowly. Then his golden eyes suddenly went wide with fear. Not fear of Taiho, but fear of something else. Something he had just remembered. "The den," he said, his voice urgent. "My den, the river, the flood. I must return there, now, before it is too late." "You cannot walk," Taiho said. "Your leg is injured. Then you must help me." Baiko grabbed Taiho's arm with one great paw. His claws did not come out. His grip was desperate but gentle. "Please, human. Taiho, there is something in my den. Something I was guarding. If it is lost..." "If they are lost, they?" Taiho asked. But Baiko did not explain. He was already trying to stand again, dragging himself up on 3 legs, ready to crawl through the storm if he had to. The pride was gone from his face now. There was only fear and determination. Taiho looked at the jungle, dark and dangerous in the storm. He looked at the injured alien who, an hour ago, would have told him to stay away from Valorian land. He thought about going back to his warm station, making a cup of coffee, waiting for the rain to stop. Then he put Baiko's arm over his shoulder and started walking into the jungle. "Which way?" he asked. Baiko pointed with his other paw, and they began their journey together, the human and the alien leopard, moving slowly through the storm toward a secret that would change everything.